Now at 6, a level 3 severe weather day for us here in central Georgia. The storms that we're watching about to move across the Georgia state line. We're going to go hour by hour on Future View and show you when they arrive.
And as the storms move into the area, schools have been telling us what they plan to do to keep students safe today. Find out what your children can expect for the rest of the day. Plus, other parts of the country are also facing issues from the weather. Get the latest from around the United States. 13 WMAZ Morning starts right now. Good morning, everybody. It's January 9th. We're back at 6 o'clock. I'm Frederick Price. Caitlin's off this morning. We are, of course, tracking the threat of severe weather this morning that Alex has been talking about all morning long. Let's go ahead and head over to him in the Weather Center with the latest on this. Alex?
Yeah, good morning, Frederick. We are checking out the radar right now and what's going on across central Georgia, but also what's going on just to the west of us. Obviously, fairly decent rainfall in parts of Monroe County through Crawford and Taylor County. This is not the main event. That is still several hours away here in central Georgia. You got to go back into Alabama to find that. And it's a little misleading, right? Because we see all of this here and we go, okay, it's coming towards central Georgia. Well, it actually has more of a northeasterly component. So a lot of what you see over towards the Montgomery area is actually going to be what slides up into the Atlanta area. We've got to drag this down to the south to see what's coming towards central Georgia, and that's where you run into this severe weather. You know, several tens of miles of the severe thunderstorm warnings down there, handful of tornado warnings down into Florida. Those only a couple hours away as those storms continue to move towards central Georgia this morning. Here is the timeline and what we're watching for over the next little bit. Watching that tornado threat to pick up kind of around 7 a.m. and continue through 1 this afternoon. That is still fairly low on the scale here. What's not low on the scale is the damaging wind threat today. That's going to pick up with this main line moving in beginning around 8 a.m. and that's going to last until about the noon hour. Wind gusts today potentially upwards of 75 miles an hour as that line moves through. So here's that level 3. Relatively unchanged from yesterday. Taylor, Peach, Houston over towards Twiggs, Wilkinson and Washington counties, and then points southward. And level 2 in place elsewhere. That's going to be Putnam County through Gray, Macon over towards Crawford County, Taylor, Upson, and Monroe County included within that here through the afternoon. We're going to go hour by hour on Future View so you can see the forecast for your individual city and what to expect through the morning coming up in just a few minutes.
Alrighty, we'll see you then, Alex. Many schools announcing closures or a work from home day ahead of these storms. So go ahead and take a look at your screen because we got a list of them for you. Jones, Dooley, Telfair, and Wilcox counties. Also Dodge, Hancock, Wheeler, Treutlen, and Monroe counties today announcing they will be closed. Another list of districts are moving instruction to online today. Those include Bibb, Baldwin, Johnson, Macon counties. Also Twiggs, Washington, and Wilkinson counties. So Houston County schools, at least as of now, not making any announcements about any closures. Dublin City schools and Lawrence County schools will have a regular school day. So we're going to continue to monitor and check with other schools as the morning progresses. And for an updated list, you can head to 13WMAZ.com.
13 WMAZ weather, sponsored by Premier Heating and Air.
Time now is 6:07. Let's head over back to meteorologist Alex Forbes, who has been tracking the latest on these storms. What's it looking like, Alex?
Yeah, Frederick, you can see behind me the camera already shaking in the wind. Everything going to according to plan so far across central Georgia. That wind in place right now, and this is actually the reason why many of the school districts are closed in central Georgia is because the buses, they can't operate when winds are over 40 miles an hour. And we're going to see that today even outside of the thunderstorms. Look at this as well. It was 51 degrees when I came into work this morning. It is now 60 degrees. So the south-southeasterly breeze raising our temperature rather dramatically here in Macon through the morning hours, and rain actually not too far away here in central Georgia. So in fact, in Macon, that matters. Already raining in parts of central Georgia. Jasper County, Putnam, Crawford, Taylor County, Upson County. This is not the main event. What the main event is still back into Alabama. And what I'm watching closely is what you see here in the parts of southeastern Alabama, but then also into northern Florida. This storm here, but then also the storm that's about to come ashore. It's these here that have the potential to bring us the first wave of severe weather, if you will, and the threat of potentially tornadoes across central Georgia because they are kind of supercells. In fact, not kind of, they are supercells out ahead of this main line. You can see a severe thunderstorm warning extending for nearly 100 miles down to the Gulf Coast this morning, and all of this sliding towards central Georgia. So a tornado warning now on the Alabama state line headed towards the Dothan area, watching for this to continue to move towards our neck of the woods over the next little bit. A level 3 severe weather risk, and a really relatively unchanged from yesterday. This is going to be from Hancock County down towards Taylor County, points south and east. So Warner Robins, Perry, Jeffersonville, everybody south and east included within that. A level 2 up toward the north. This is going to be Upson, Crawford, Bibb over towards Jones, Baldwin, Putnam, Hancock counties. The threat for damaging winds and tornadoes for all of us today. Let's kind of dig into that outlook a little bit and talk about why we've got a 3 in place, and the reason being is right here. It's actually not the tornado threat. It's the wind threat today across central Georgia. You can see we're fairly up there on the scale now, up to about 30%, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but in the meteorology world and especially in the outlook world, that's a fairly significant event. And not only that, the Storm Prediction Center went back around and took that area and highlighted it. Anytime you see these black dash marks, that is them saying within that area we have the potential to also see a significant severe event, which in the wind case is 75+ mph winds, and the tornado case, that's EF2+. They've done the same thing down to our south. That's going to be from central Dooley County down into Crisp County, clipping parts of Wilcox County as well. So that's part of the reason why we're watching those storms moving into southeastern Alabama right now. So let's time it out city by city here. 7 a.m. You can see we've got a smattering of rain across central Georgia. Again, not the main event there. It's going to be this line moving in by about 9 a.m. and then anything that's out ahead of it for the potential of supercells there. There's 9 a.m. The line moving in, 10 a.m. crossing Interstate 75 here, so that's going to be clearing for Forsyth, moving into Macon, Warner Robins, Perry, Unadilla. An event coming to an end in Upson and Taylor counties. Play this forward to noon. Here we are with the line moving in towards Sandersville, Wrightsville, Dublin, Eastman. The event ending in Macon, Warner Robins, Unadilla, Cordele, and then by 1, 2 o'clock, all of the rain gets out of central Georgia. Look at that, sunny skies going to be a possibility later on today. So here is this timeline, watching for this tornado threat to pick up first south and west at about 7 a.m. and continue through the morning hours. Even as that line comes through, we will have the possibility to see tornadoes embedded within that line. But my main concern is for this, damaging winds today, 75+ miles an hour as that line comes through from about 8 a.m. to noon today. Also watching the flooding risk as well. On top of all of that, as if we needed more, right? A wind advisory in place from now until 1 a.m. for non-thunderstorm wind gusts up to 45 miles an hour. Again, this is actually the reason why a lot of the schools are closed today, because when you have gusts like that, those buses cannot operate. 65, the high temperature today. 53 tomorrow, 62 for Thursday. We have a 70% chance of storms again on Friday. And yes, we've already got an outlook drawn up for Friday as well. Maybe some more severe weather, although I'm not expecting it to be as strong as today.
It's 6:16. Let's hope back over to Alex.
The storms down in southeastern Alabama continuing to get closer. A tornado watch now on the state line. We're going to time out when this arrives in central Georgia straight ahead. Well, today a level 3 severe weather day in central Georgia, and what you see here on the radar is not the main event. That is going to come later on this morning across central Georgia. So yes, raining right now in parts of Jasper County, Jones County, about to move in toward the downtown Macon area. Monroe County completely covered up in the rain, same with Crawford County. But what we're watching more so is what's back into Alabama right now. You see this line of storms back down into Montgomery, but then more specifically into parts of southeastern Alabama and the Florida Panhandle. I'm watching these storms closely, and in fact, it was interesting. We were just talking with the National Weather Service about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour ago. We were talking about whether or not the showers and storms up here would stabilize our atmosphere for when these arrive, and the answer is no. They're not going to, because what's happening today is really a lot of our severe weather threat is driven by what's called wind shear, which is the change with wind from the surface to high in the storm. And that's going to be plentiful across central Georgia as we work our way here through the later morning hours. So watching what's just north of the Dothan area right now, this tornado warning that's on the Alabama state line, but then also this storm that's about to come ashore in Panama City. All of this moving up towards central Georgia here over the next little bit. So this level 3 in place today, generally speaking, south and east of Macon, a level 2 in place for Roberta, Macon, Milledgeville, Sparta, Eatonton. That's not to say that you shouldn't be paying any less attention or anything like that. It's just that you're a step below the threat today for damaging winds and tornadoes, and that's going to come later on this morning as this main line comes through. So here we are at about 9 a.m. There's that main line arriving, watching for the potential of storms out ahead of it. If the storms are able to fire up, they would be supercells, which means they rotate, which means they can produce tornadoes. That's where most of our tornado risk is going to come from, but also within this line, we could have embedded spin-up tornadoes as well. There it is, crossing the Interstate 75 corridor, Macon, Warner Robins, Perry, Unadilla, Cordele, about 10 a.m. By the time we get to noon, moving into Wrightsville, over towards Sandersville, Dublin, Eastman. The severe weather threat coming to an end in Milledgeville, Macon, Warner Robins, Unadilla, Cordele by noon, and then all of it getting out of here later on this afternoon. And then we mix in some sun. So here's your timeline. watching this tornado threat picking up about the 7 a.m. hour, continuing to about 1 p.m., but really watching the damaging wind threat the closest today as that gets a little higher on the scale from about 8 a.m. to noon today. We're going to keep an eye on it all here in the Weather Center today. A high temperature is 65, much cooler tomorrow. By the time we get to the weekend, Friday there, a 70% chance of storms. Once again, we've got an outlook in place for that. Temperatures cooler on the flip side of it with highs in the 50s, lows in the 20s.
Alex, this is a good reminder. If you don't already have it, download the 13 WMAZ mobile app. You can get it in the Google Play or Apple Store, or you can quickly scan the QR code that is on your screen right now. Once you get the app, be sure to sign up for notifications, and you'll get the latest news and weather alerts sent right to your phone. We're back in just a moment.
All right, 626 here on your Tuesday morning, continuing to track storms just off to the west this morning that are going to move into central Georgia. They're what you see back here into Alabama this morning from the Montgomery area back down towards the Pensacola area. A handful of tornado warnings there in the Florida Panhandle as well. These storms here with the tornado warnings on them are sliding towards central Georgia and will be here in the next couple of hours. You might remember back to previous weather events. Okay, it's raining now, but there's severe weather on the way. Well, maybe that will help. We were talking about it with the National Weather Service earlier. Still, what's called the low-level vertical wind shear, which means the twisting in the surface is not going to be precluded enough or put at bay enough to hold off the severe weather risk. So still expecting storms to arrive here about 8, 9 o'clock or so, and then that's going to cause that severe weather threat as we work our way through the morning hours. We're going to take a much closer look at this, go hour by hour on Future View so you can see its forecast for your city. It all comes up here as we start at 6:30. Now at 6:30, storms that are in southeastern Alabama continuing to move towards central Georgia. It's already windy here. The temperatures beginning to rise. We'll time out their arrival straight ahead.
And schools have been telling us what their plan is to keep students safe today. Find out what your children can expect for the rest of the day. Plus, when it comes to storms, it's important to keep in mind your own safety plan. So get the details on how you can give yourself a better chance when storms do come. 13 WMAZ Morning starts right now. Good morning, everybody. It's January 9th. We're back at 6:30 this morning. I'm Frederick Price, Caitlin Soft. This morning, we're tracking the threat for severe weather. Alex has been at the Weather Center all morning long tracking the latest. So, Alex, at this hour, what are we looking at?
Yeah, Frederick, raining across parts of central Georgia right now. Monroe County over towards Jasper, Putnam, even a couple lightning strikes in and around Crawford, Taylor, and Macon counties. But this is not what we are expecting to be the severe weather event today. That's still back off to the west. The main line of storms back near Alexander City, near Lake Martin, down towards Montgomery, and into actually now the Florida Panhandle past Mobile. We pull this down to the south. You can see a handful of warnings down in the Florida Panhandle, and it's actually these storms here that are going to arrive in central Georgia first later on today. And those storms are what we call supercells, which means they are rotating in and of themselves. And that's where our tornado risk is going to come from later on today. So that's going to pick up about 7 a.m. here, so the next 30 minutes or so, and then continue until about 1 o'clock today. This relatively low on the scale, only a notch or two up. The damaging wind risk, though, that's going to be a little higher up, and that's actually going to be my main concern through the day today as this line slides on through. The Storm Prediction Center has outlined parts of central Georgia to see potentially winds up to 75 miles an hour. That would be within this level 3 area. So from southern Hancock County through Washington, Wilkinson, Twiggs over towards Houston, Peach, southern Taylor County, Macon County, and southward in this level 3, a level 2 up towards the north. That's going to include Eatonton, Gray over towards Monticello, Forsyth, Bolingbroke, Macon, Roberta over towards Butler and Thomaston, and that's going to continue here through the morning hours. But here's this wind outlook again. What has my attention today is this. Not only are we fairly high on the scale here now, the Storm Prediction Center went back around with a highlighter and said not only that, within this dashed area, winds could potentially be as strong as 75 miles an hour. We're going to go hour by hour on Future View so that you can see what's going to happen later on today. Plus, take a look at what to expect over the course of the next couple of days coming up in just a few moments.
Alrighty, thank you. It is 6:39 now. Alex Forbes has been in the Weather Center all morning long tracking the latest on this potential storm threat. Alex, what is the latest?
Yeah, Frederick, we actually just got some new information in literally about a minute ago from the Storm Prediction Center. They are saying it is likely that parts of our area, especially south and west, going to be put in tornado watch by 8 a.m. So that is going to be the timeline on that. Looking live over downtown, we have already gusted to 37 miles an hour here in Macon, and that is without thunderstorms. And now we're beginning to see some rain roll in. Temperatures also on the rise as well. It was 51 when I got to work this morning. It's now 60 degrees, courtesy of that south-southeasterly breeze, sustained at 21, of course, gusting into the 30s this morning. Take a look at the radar. The fairly moderate rainfall moving into downtown, covering up parts of Jones County over towards Jasper, over Monroe County, Crawford, Taylor, Macon counties. I want to emphasize this is not the main event. Not even what you see back out near LaGrange. That's not the main event either. It's still back into Alabama near Alexander City through the Montgomery area. And then once you work your way down towards the south now this morning near the Alabama-Florida state line there, just on the east side of Mobile, but then also extending into the Florida Panhandle. I'm watching what you see in Dothan and then down towards the Panama City area very closely because these are supercells. These are out ahead of the main line. They are rotating by themselves and they are producing tornadoes at times. We've lost that warning on the one in Dothan, but cell coming ashore now in Panama City that is, you can see, moving in the general direction now of central Georgia. Now, we've talked about it before, in terms of it rains before a severe weather event, and sometimes that can put the kibosh on what's going to happen later on this morning. Well, not expecting that to be the case today. Even, the models picked up on it last night, what we're seeing right now. And they still say it only takes about an hour or two for the atmosphere to recover, and then we're right back in the thick of it in terms of a severe weather threat. So a level 3 in place today from parts of southern Hancock County through Wilkinson, Twiggs, southern Bibb over towards Houston, Peach, and then Taylor County and points southward. So this includes Warner Robins, Perry, Hawkinsville, Cochran, Dublin, Dexter, Eastman, McRae, Alamo, Vidalia, Wrightsville, Sandersville, everybody who's south of that line. A level 2 in place up towards the north. That's going to be Eatonton, Sparta, Milledgeville, downtown Macon, Forsyth, Roberta, and Butler. I don't want the people in the level 2 area to be like, okay, we're all good. Well, it's still a severe weather threat. It's just not as strong as down to the south. The main line going to arrive about 9 a.m. through Upson and Taylor counties, watching for potentially some storms out ahead of it. That's where the stronger tornado threat would be. The line crossing Interstate 75 about the 10 a.m. hour there. How much more the temperatures rise? Maybe another 7-8 degrees before that line comes on through. And by the time we get to the noon hour, this is going to be moving towards Eastman, Dublin, and Wrightsville. The severe weather threat coming to an end in Forsyth, Macon, and Warner Robins. So yeah, we're saying 1 o'clock is kind of the end for central Georgia. But as soon as that line comes through, your severe weather threat will come to an end for the day. So here's how it all shakes down. Tornado threat beginning around 7 a.m. That's going to continue through the morning hours and into the early afternoon, wrap up around 1. Not only do we have the tornado threat with the storms out ahead of the main line, but then also some weaker tornadoes embedded within the main line will be possible. But I'm watching this most closely. The damaging wind threat today, I've got that at its highest between 8 a.m. and through about noon as that line comes on through, because the Storm Prediction Center says we could see winds up to 75 miles an hour within the storms. Outside of the storms, we've got another wind advisory in effect for what we're already seeing this morning, gusts upwards of 45 miles an hour. That's going to be for all of central Georgia until 1 a.m. Wednesday. And that is actually the reason why many schools in central Georgia are closed today, is because the school buses can't operate when the winds are above 40 miles an hour. So 65 going to be that high temperature today. Obviously a 100% chance to rain with the storms coming in this morning. Cooler tomorrow, a high temperature of only 53, 62 on Thursday. Then by the time we get to Friday, watching another storm risk here in central Georgia. And yes, we've already got an outlook in place for that one. Potentially some more strong storms on the flip side of that, cooler across central Georgia. Highs in the 50s for Saturday and Sunday. Overnight lows in the 20s.
All right, thank you, Alex. If you don't already have it, download the 13 WMAZ mobile app. You can get it in the Google Play or Apple stores, or you can quickly scan the QR code that is on your screen right now. Once you get the app, be sure to sign up for notifications, and you'll get the latest weather and news alerts sent straight to your phone. We're back in just a moment. It's 6:52 now. Let's head back over to Alex with a check of the weather.
Yeah, Frederick, a couple of things now. So I mentioned just a few minutes ago, the Storm Prediction Center expecting to fill in a tornado watch for parts of southwestern Georgia, which will come up into central Georgia over the next hour or so, expecting that to come out. We also now have another tornado warning that's going to be on the Dothan area on the Georgia state line. So all of this to say, what you see down here is what's coming towards central Georgia later on today, and even more severe storms as that main line continues to move toward the east as the sun now begins to come up, expecting this to pick up some energy. And then actually right there you go, another new tornado warning there. So all of that to say, expecting a busy morning here in central Georgia. As you head out to work and school, make sure you have a way to get weather alerts. We'll keep you updated here on 13 WMAZ. All right, yeah, Frederick, we've got a handful of tornado warnings down to the south and west. These are going to be lifting towards central Georgia here in the hours to come. A level 3 severe weather risk in place today. Because of that, across central Georgia, we're going to be keeping a close eye on it. Meteorologist Alex Pry is here with me now. We'll be monitoring this here through the morning hours and into the early afternoon. Stay tuned with us on air and online. CBS Mornings coming up next.